Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Okay, welcome to this episode of Power Your Profit Podcast, and I have an amazing treat for you. I am bringing you my girl, Kim Grimes. Kim, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for people to meet you. Kim and I go way back, way back, and Kim is a beast, as I said in her bio. But Kim, I want to hear from your words. What's your magic, and what's your business all about right now, and what makes you unique and different?
Absolutely. So because we go way back, right? We go way back. I've learned so much in the time that we've been together. So for the listeners, you guys don't know, Susie was my executive coach. I hired her back in 2012, and she, of course, still is amazing. She was amazing then. She's amazing now. And what I have learned in between that time is I'm an advocate for emotional literacy and an advocate for you being you. So that's why I started a podcast called You Are You, Unapologetically. What I've learned is how to fall madly. Did I say madly?
Madly.
In love, right. In love with me. That's right. I said me. And so I learned how to do that really under Susie's tutelage, learning from her. She was one of the one people and persons in my life that actually called me out to my greatness. She called because she saw something in me, which I'm not going to lie, I knew it was in me, but I played it down. I showed up, like dumbed it down, but Susie called it out. And so I'm sharing all that to say that that's what I do. I am a life coach, or I am an emotional literacy coach. That's what I teach. And I help youth, young adults, and adults, women, executives. I know that's a lot, but my focus is really on executive leaders to help them to really identify with their emotions, to learn how to respond and not react, so that they can continue to build strong teams, be able to express themselves and relate to those who are in their environment. So that's what I do.
Well, I think you're the perfect teacher for it, because when you look at 25 years in the military, so yes, major, right? Major.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Retired.
Major Dr. Kim Grimes. I just want to say, I don't know what comes first. I'm just saying it all. Right. And so I think it's important because and that's what I saw in you. You had to be suited and booted. And so
yes.
You had to be this professional person. And then now all of a sudden I'm saying, be you, be authentic, you're like, I am. I'm like, no, you're not. There's a whole dynamo under there. Right. And so I think in corporate America, as business owners, and especially as women, we have a box we have to fit into, right? To try to fit in, and now we're all saying, be authentic, be unapologetic. And
right.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. And so many people, they don't know, they know the phrase, they hear it, the cliche, but they don't know what that really looks like for them. Like, I can show up and show you my authenticity for me, but how do you take that and translate it or turn it around to make it your own? How do you make that, who you are? And so this is what I've learned is that first, I was created with my own greatness. It's unique. There's no other Kim like me. There will never be another Kim. So I say that no one is better at being me than I am, like than I can. So I'm going to show up 150%, right? Right off, like this is what you see is what you're going to get.
That is, well, I'm going to say that I've known her for years. And what I love, it's consistent. Because people go, that can't be real. Oh, no. That is from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. And I've seen it from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. It's the little engine that could all day long. All that energy, all the time. Until she sleeps.
You're so right. You're so right. And that was one of the things that I had to learn how to own, right? Like people would always say, oh, I love your energy. And I'm looking like, what energy? What are we talking about? But I learned how to be myself. And it's a process. It was definitely a process. And I have to say, it did start with you. It started with motivating the masses and working with you as my executive coach. And in that, I learned what emotional literacy is. I learned that. And then I learned self-work, like how important it is to do the self-work on yourself. Like I can watch people do it all day long, but it wasn't helping me. And so just being in that environment, being on that campus, working with you guys the way that I did, it opened me up. And you hit a nail on the head. As a retired major, when I came into, you came into my life, I came into your life, I was a retired major. I was used to telling people what to do, how to do it, when to do it, all of that. And I had to learn humility. So that's another big thing that I walked away with is humility, because as an officer, it comes in bits and pieces, but it doesn't come the way it showed up, the way I've learned it. And because I had to serve. So there's a part of me that wants to serve and love to serve, but I had to learn how to do that when I'm used to telling people what to do, how to do it. It's totally different than serving. So I had to become the servant, which when I say become, it was really, it's really in me. It's always been a part of me. And so I had to learn how to own my greatness. But before I did that, I had to uncover it because I did not know what it was. And with your help, you helped me to uncover it. And in that process, I learned how to acknowledge it. So when I acknowledge it, I'm now having a conversation about how amazing I am, about, what are the things that I, bring to the table. And don't get me wrong, I'm not tooting my horn, not doing that at all. I'm just standing and living in my greatness. And I've done it for so long that I can have a conversation for weeks about this here, just about this topic. And so I learned how to uncover it. I learned how to acknowledge it. I learned how to own it. And like I just said, I am now walking and living in my greatness. But let me take you back. Let me take you back to something that really got it off the ground. I already introduced you to the first thing, and that was Susie Carder, right? When I met her, I was scared of her. Yeah, I was scared. And because she was, it wasn't her persona or anything like that, but she was about business, but she was about you doing what it is that you were called to do and that you said that you're going to do. So she was very good at holding me accountable. And like I said, she saw in me stuff that I saw, but I would not acknowledge it for myself. So she saw it and she started calling it out. So I had no choice but to show up the way that I was. Say that again.
Step into it.
Yes, step in, lean in. I had to write all of that. And I took some time to really think about like, what was it? Of course, all the exercises and things like that. But one of the things that I did, and I still do to this day, Lisa Nichols has a book that's called No Matter What. And in that book, she identified 4 questions. And I can't recall at this moment the order, but the 4 questions was, what do you love about yourself? What do you admire about yourself? What do you like about yourself? And what do you appreciate about yourself? So there's no order, but what I did with that is I put it in that order because I like to call it la la, right? So I learned how to la la. I learned la la, like, appreciate, love, admire, or love, admire, appreciate, like. But anyway, in her book, she says to go and answer these questions, and then you read it out loud in the mirror. What I can't recall either if this was a daily thing or not, because I don't remember the book, but what I did is I made it a daily thing for me. Not only did I make it a daily thing, I created an exercise that I now call it Path to Greatness. And it's really about uncovering your greatness. And so what I did is I did it every day, but I wrote it down. I wrote my answers down in a journal. And what I did that was different is that every day I made sure I had an answer, right? But I made sure it wasn't a duplicate answer. So if I said the day before what I like about myself, my beautiful brown eyes, or I love my cocoa brown skin, like once I said that answer, I could not use that answer anymore. And when I did that, it caused me to go deeper. Right? Like you can start with, well, I like my hair, or I love my eyes. And, right. I love, all the exterior things that you see, you can begin to answer the questions. And before long, you're going to run out of answers.
Right.
Bottom line, you're going to run out of answers. So in creating this for myself, that's exactly what happened. I was running out of answers, and I was like, what do I like? What do I love? What I admire? And so it made me go inward. It really made me go inward.
I keep seeing you reinventing yourself. Like you've reinvented yourself so many times. And I think so many people right now are struggling because the economy and the pandemic and whatever's happening. There's always a pandemic. There's always something, right? I think I want to say it's your secret sauce, but tell people your secret sauce in staying in action and growing, because you retired from the military. Then you came into our campus for a while. Then you went and got your doctorate. Now you're doing some amazing things. So what's been your secret sauce in staying in action and growing?
Ooh, so my secret sauce. So I am a bona fide Jesus follower. And so for those who are listening,
a bona fide, y'all, bona
fide Jesus follower. And so let me share this. Let me say what I mean by that. So over the course of some years, I am, or maybe religious can relate to this, will say, so yes, I do admit that I am a Christian. I'll say that, but on my side, I go another level and say bona fide Jesus follower, because it's a difference, right? I'm committed to following Jesus. And so with that being said, I would say that is my secret sauce, but it wasn't something that came easy for me. It was something that I had to do the research. I had to build the relationship myself and learn of him myself. So over the course of time, it was like, oh, this is what I like to do. Right. Oh, and this is what I like to do. Oh, but yet that was the one thing that has been steady throughout the last 25 years, if not 30 years of mine. And so I say that let me say this. I say this not to be religious, because I'm not. I say that to say I've learned how to build relationships, and that's a relationship that I built, which is now my secret sauce.
Right. So I think it's important for people to understand, like, it's Kim's secret sauce. It's one of my secret sauce too, right? And to go, I think we all have to have a higher power, higher purpose, higher being, right? And to go, it's what's worked for us in our life and in our business. So let's talk about what's the biggest challenge you're currently facing in your business right now, right? In your role that you're doing, right? And how are you tackling it? Because I think there's a lot of times, I mean, you got the major Dr. Kim Grimes, right? And then people automatically go, she's so hooked up, right? Your life's so easy. And I think you've got tools to help you, but what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? And then how are you tackling it? What are you doing?
Absolutely. So the biggest challenge that we're facing right now, that I'm facing in my business, is fundraising. That's one of the huge heavy lift for me right now, is finding the money and getting in front of the people who have the money, and having the conversation to convince them to release the money. So I have a nonprofit. I have a couple of businesses, but I have a nonprofit called Synergy. It's one of the three. I have a nonprofit for young people as well, youth and young adults, called Living Abundantly Youth Vision. And then I have a for-profit called Living Abundantly, which I do majority of my coaching out of Living Abundantly. I work with youth and young adults out of Living Abundantly Youth Vision. And then I work with small businesses, providing a mentor program for women, let me say people of color, women and minority small businesses, so that we can help them to scale and grow their business. And so with Synergy right now, we need funds, which we all know capital and getting capital is a heavy lift. So what you ask, what are we doing? I'm glad you asked that. So we sat down, of course, we looked at our budget and we said, this is what we need to run this and to get the number of small businesses into the program, because we offer the program for free, where we go after corporate. We go after corporate to cover the cost. So the mentees who come in, they get all of the benefits of the program for free. So two things that we have going on. One, we launched a rev share program, because we said we need to reach out to our community and ask our community if they want to partake, become partners with us, and share and introduce us to the people that they know who have money, because the best marketing is word of mouth. That's why referrals are always great. So that's the first thing that we've done. We just launched that about maybe a week ago, and now we're actually pushing it out as well, reaching out to our community, asking them if they would be partners with us or want to be part of this rev share, which that is one thing that we're doing. The other thing that we're actually talking about right now is membership. So this program, we went to, we're currently getting our fundings from corporate. And Wells Fargo is one of our biggest sponsors. And so we want to move in a I guess to a frame where it requires membership as well, because of so much value that the mentees get from this program. And not only the mentees, the mentors and everyone who's a part of this community, there's so much value. So now we're like, how do we sustain this in a way that we can continue to give the value, and people will continue to show up and be a part of the community. But this way we don't have to worry about the big heavy lift of, okay, now we have to get a sponsor. Oh, and so that's where we are. So now we're in that conversation now about laying out a membership program for Synergy. So those are the two things that we already launched one, and we're looking to launch the membership by this summer. And looking at those two means to help us with this heavy lift of generating or finding capital.
So I love it. There's money all around us, right? Money all around us. We start talking about it, we can make it happen. Right?
Your birthright. It's your wealth is your birthright. Don't get it twisted.
Okay, so let's talk about, I think some of the times, I know for me, the biggest learning lessons have been the biggest times I've failed, right? Bloody knees, bloody elbows. So what's been your biggest failure? And then what has been your biggest takeaway from that experience?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So I want to say, let me preface this to say that I learned to accept failure as a part of my stepping stone, as a part of my success, as a part of who I am, because I'm not perfect. So in what I've learned and what I'm doing, I actually not saying that I set out to look for failure, But when it shows up, I welcome it because it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am. And so I learned that it has become a part of my success. And so I say, success is not success without failure, right? So it's a part of your success. And so what was that the biggest or the failure?
Well, it could be a failure or a hardship. So I think
Yes,
that
yes. So that's where I was going. So
I
thank
think
you for
back at
that.
your first relationship, and that it wasn't necessarily a failure, but it was a kick in the face.
Yes, 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 yes. So you're talking about my first husband?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, oh, that was a huge like kick in the face. At the age of 24, I found myself, or let's just say it this way, I was a widow at the age of 24. And that was pivotal in, I see it now in who I am now. But then at the age of 24, I was, as they say now, cray cray. I was just totally out of it. Just the loss of a loved one is so devastating anyway, but then to have a loss of a spouse, it, not saying it takes it up a notch or anything like that. It's just, it definitely will rock your foundation, and it will make you question who you are. And what I realized was that my identity was all caught up in him. I grew up inner city Philadelphia. So did he. And we both wanted to go in the military. I wanted the Air Force. He wanted the Army, but he didn't talk about the Army. He just up and joined the Army. How about that? So came home and said, hey, I'm going to the Army. So I say all that to say my Air Force dreams went bye-bye when I realized that if I do Air Force, we won't be together. So we did that, got married after basic training, and he got shipped off to Korea for a whole year. So our first year together in our marriage, he was gone. So he came back the following year. I wound up moving up, going with him. And I would say 6 months later, he was dead. A poacher mistaked him as a deer, came up and shot him, left him for dead. And that was the beginning of my spiral, my life spiraling out of control. And for years, it took me a minute to find myself. It took me a minute to identify this. But here's the thing. I got mad at everybody. I got, like, if you breathe, I was mad at you and I didn't like you. I got mad at God. I didn't want him to have anything to do with me. Like, I would not allow him in my life at all. And so it wasn't until I met, believe it or not, my current husband. And when I met him, to this day, I still say it. He was a straight up booty call. I was going to hit it and quit it. And that's it. That was the intent, because that's where I was mentally. I was like manipulating men, manipulating whoever I can. It was like, what can I get out of them? And I met him. And unbeknownst to me, he had prayed for a woman, right? He had prayed and asked God to send him someone that he can love. And God sent him me. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Like, I'm broken. I am just like, just coming out all at the seams. I'm just, when I say broken, I was beyond broken. I was just as they say now, a hot mess, but I was a hot mess to the 10th degree, like just totally. But he loved me, and he showed me how, in his loving me, he actually like showed me a mirror, just his persona and who he is. It was like me looking in a mirror, and I couldn't recognize myself because what he saw and what I saw was two different things. So every time I cussed, I drank, I smoked, I partied, what? And he would say to me, you're too beautiful to use that language. You're so loving and but I couldn't see it. I was so beyond broken. I could not see that for myself. And so his name is Lionel. He played a pivotal role in it. We are now married for 27 years, or will it be 27? What year is this? This is 2022. We got, yeah. So 2022, so it'll be 27 years in August that we've been married, and we've been together for 30, it'll be 31 years that we've been together. And him being who he was helped a lot. And I would say this, I was so mad at God that I ain't want nothing to do with God. I would go to church with Lionel just to look at him, just be like, nothing to do with God. I'm just, because I had an ultimate goal, and that was to hit it and quit it and go about my business. But it didn't happen like that. It didn't happen like that. He's still around. Yay!
Still hitting it, didn't quit it.
Right. And so in that time, I would say, I tell people, you can be around people who know God, and you may not read the book or whatever, but it'll get in, and it did. And so I am also an ordained minister, and so now, hence to my bona fide Jesus follower. So that, I would say, would be like the biggest kick that I had in my life. But yet I now look back and say, how many women that was I able to help because of that? Because when that happened to me at 24, I was clueless. Like, I was like, who can I help? Like, what? Like, I'm so mad at everybody. You look at me wrong, I'm ready to fight you. I'm just ready to fight you. And so I couldn't see myself being able to help anyone. But sure enough, they would come across God would send them across my path. And I say this to say that one of my childhood friends who I used to tag behind, her husband wound up passing away a couple of years after mine. And her family reached out to me, told me about it, and asked me to talk to her. And I'm thinking, what can I say to her? I'm hurting. Look, I don't know what I'm going to be able to say to her, but nevertheless, I did. I talked with her, and she told me how much that conversation helped her tremendously. And it just didn't stop then. It continues, to this day. I have one girlfriend, real close girlfriend of mine, who, if you would have told me this would have happened, I would have said, oh my gosh, no. Well, 2017 was one of a rough year for me and my husband. But this year, for my girlfriend, her husband passed away, massive heart attack. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, what? And of course, you don't wish this on anyone. So I say this to say that I was able to help her, to work with her, to talk her through it. That February 19th, 2022, she remarried. What?
That's awesome.
Yes. I was like, oh my goodness. So, and she shared with me how much I was able to support her in that. It took me a little longer. It took her 5 years. It took me 8. But nevertheless, we got
Well, she was a little more seasoned and mature.
Right. And I was
ignorance on fire, a hottie body, right?
All of that and more.
Other agenda you were going through just in life, right? Besides, losing your husband. So I like that you share that story, because there's things that knock you down, and you can tell by who Kim is. She just keeps getting back up again.
Yes.
The funny thing is, she always says she's a fighter, but she's the hardest lover. Like, and I think that's why we're such soul sisters, because I love so hard, but it takes you a minute to get in. But once you get in, you ain't getting out.
Right.
Okay, so let's take it just a little bit, because you're very sophisticated in this conversation we're going to go in, because podcast is Power Your Profit. So I want to share what's part of your wealth strategy, right? Because you've done some investing. I don't want to tell your story. So talk about your wealth strategy, because you and Lionel are in a great place.
Yes.
And you strategically planned a great place, right?
Yes.
Which, you're not working at, the supermarket or
right.
You're not a greeter. So let's talk about your guys' wealth strategy and
absolutely
what you guys do.
So wealth is what you have on your wall, is your birthright. It's a part of who you are, and you have to make it a part of who you are. You have to recognize that you have and one of the things with me was, when it came to money, there was there was something, and I thought wealth was money. And so I had to have a mindset shift around that, to be able to welcome it, to be able to be open to it and allow it to come in the variety or the various forms that it shows up. And so my wealth strategy consists of, of course, properties, right? That's one of the big things. Investment, that as well. Owning your own business. When I have a doctorate degree. Susie spoke about that, but I also have an undergrad in computer science. So I'm a closet geek, y'all. I'm a closet geek, but I also have my master's degree in management. And so I share all that to say that I'm using my gifts and my talents to make way for me, to build my wealth even the more. And so if you haven't picked it up by now, one of my gifts is talking. Like, I have the gift of gab. I own it. It's mine, right? And I say, look, it's my gift and I got to use it. So being able to, do keynotes and do programs, working with young people. So what I did is I began to look at my gifts and my talents, and what do I do? What can I do that I love to do and love it so much that you can tie my hands behind my back, blindfold me, gag me, make me hop on one foot, right? And I'll still be like, yeah, let's do it, right? So I began to start looking at those things and start implementing things and putting them into creating programs. And that's helped me to create and build a wealth strategy, because what I offer, people need, right? And the base is around emotional literacy, even more so now after post-corona, and you're hearing how people are, how they're, and I say reacting. That's the best way I can explain it. And so I want to say that's what I've done. And it wasn't always, there's some things that didn't work. There's some things that did. And so, but I would say the biggest thing for my wealth strategy was my mindset shift, right? And knowing that whatever it is that I need, whatever it is that I want, I can get it. And it's not about if I have the digits in my account right now or not. It's really, and I'm going to say, it's really what I've learned is how to trust, and how to trust in my higher power to deliver it. And that was a huge lift for me, because for years I was giving lip service around trust. Now it's like, okay, I'm not doing nothing. It'll come, and look, I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to sit there and do that. And so I just want to share that when it comes to wealth and wealth strategy, it definitely starts with a mindset shift. I said before, I grew up inner city Philadelphia. I'm the fifth child, of 8 children. And just like Susie can name off all of hers, I can too, right? Junior, Cherie, Marcia, Deborah, Kim, that's me, Shirley, Van, and Cheryl. So we all grew up together, and we're all stair steps, 1 year apart. And then when you really plan it on the calendar, you'll be like, some of us wasn't even a year yet when my mama was pushing out the next one. So I say all that to say we had humble beginnings, definitely humble beginnings, but I knew at a young age that I was not going to be a poor adult. And so that's how I got my computer science degree, and it served me 100%, but it was not my passion. So what I did was I started looking at, like I said, my passion, what drives me, what are my gifts, what are my talents, what are my skills? And then I start looking at what are the needs, right? I can't put something together if there's not a demand. I mean, well, you can, but nobody's going to want it. So you have to go out and look at what is it that people want? What are they asking for? What do they need? And then create a program around that. And so that's what I have been doing. And that's what I continue to do, because it works for me.
Right. I love that. Okay. So let's let's say, what does Major Doctor Reverend Kim Grimes?
Right? I know, right? But this is what I say. Just call me Kim, because that's what my mama named me. When she pushed me out, she said Kim. And here's the thing, I'm not even a Kimberly. I'm just Kim, Kim. So I answer to that. Just
But
call me
I
Kim.
like it because I think it's important, the journey that you've had to take,
Yes,
especially as a woman of color,
yes,
to go to keep moving on, to keep picking yourself up, to
yes,
keep, when society can say, no, you don't qualify, that's not
right.
who you are, you keep showing up. So I will say them all because I
Yes,
edify the journey that you've been on, right? I'm laughing as I say because it's a mouthful, but you've earned
yes,
it. And you've
yes.
earned the right, and you've earned the respect for me, right?
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I do. I do receive that, and I know it's there. It's the humility that I learned from being underneath your tutelage, that kicks in as well to remind me, right? Like, yes, you may have these titles, but yet, you're still, I want to make sure I want to make sure that I'm approachable and not allow the titles to scare some people off because I have so many.
I don't think anybody that's listening to this right now thinks you're not approachable. Let's just say that. I think our journeys, right, show us the approachability to go, I know where I came
Absolutely.
from. And
Yes.
where I came from, this is a place that I'm in, but where I came from is where our character is built.
Absolutely.
And all those,
Absolutely.
the up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So what do you want
Mm-hmm.
to be remembered for, Kim Grimes?
Oh, I want to be remembered for being that person that catered to a need, being that person that served and that gave from the heart, and that is willing to pour into you, and continue to pour into you and continue to pour into you and to serve you no matter where you are. I want to be remembered as that person who showed up being herself and didn't owe anyone an apology because she's loud and proud, right? Because because she says the wrong words and get them wrong a lot. Where I love my husband, he always makes sure I say it correctly, and I do. I'll say it correctly, and then I'll say it wrong again. But nevertheless, being that person that no matter who is in the room, she showed up, and she showed up full out to serve and support everyone and anyone that's in the room. That's what I would love to be remembered by.
I think you will be
Yay.
remembered by that. So if you want to get a hold of Kim Grimes, first we want to say plug into her podcast, right? So it's You Are You Unapologetically, and it's kimrgrimes.com/podcast.
Yes.
So you can check in there.
Yes.
Know that when you speak to Kim, anyone on her campus, anyone in her tribe, it's like, welcome home, welcome home. So Kim, thank you for being here. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you. I appreciate everything about you. You were one of my ride or die sisters from another
Likewise.
for sure. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're definitely one of my sisters from another mister. I appreciate you, Susie, on who you are and how you show up. And not only that, how you showed up in my life then, right? And how it had and still have an impact on my life now. And so let me leave you with this and your audience with this, because Susie said, I do have my doctorate degree. My doctorate degree is in strategic leadership. And just like I said, after 25 years, in the Army, I felt like I knew a little bit of leadership. So with that, I want to share with you my favorite leadership definition. There's many of them out there, but this is the one that speaks to me, and it speaks to you as well, Susie. Leadership is helping others to be better as a result of your presence and ensuring the impact lasts in your absence. Isn't that juicy?
I'm just going to say, we're going to drop the mic. We're going to drop the mic. That's why I got to have a fake one, right? Drop the mic.
Oh, I know. I'm going to have to, look, get one of those.
I got to send you one of my mics. So you know how, in the church when they throw the shoe? So Okay, so at one event, I think it might have been the event you were volunteering for us. They started throwing shoes, and I'm like, these people are gonna get hurt, right? So then I got the mics to throw the mic. When you drop the mic, throw the mic. So
throw the mic. I remember. Yes, you're gonna have to send me one.
Send you a mic.
So I can drop the mic. Yes.
All right, my sister, please go check out Kim Grimes. Her website is Kim R. Grimes, KIMR Grimes, GRIMES.com. Go see my girl. One, to get, we know that your net worth will only grow as high as your self-worth. It takes a tribe. It takes a village. We've done so much work together. Thank you for being my guest. Thank you for being always you. Thank you for powering up our profits and sharing your wealth of wisdom with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored. And thank you, Susie, for being Susie Carder. There's only one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.